Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is for you. Thank you for tuning in to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger Sports Talk once again. I'm your host, the Viking Donkey, and I'll be coming to you solo tonight as there are some pressing needs we need to talk about, I guess, out here in Steeler Nation. What we talked about last week was the draft, and, well, y'all know how we thought about it. Wasn't the prettiest thing ever, but the Steelers made a nice signing, I thought, this week. They added Arthur Mallett, a safety who has some starting experience with the Jets. I mean, obviously the Jets' offense hasn't or defense hasn't been very good. There's a reason he was still available, but a good depth piece to add a guy with some starting experience and the ability to step in and play if something should happen to one of our safeties, which honestly the secondary doesn't have too much great depth, so adding anybody who can play out there at this point is really good. I know there's still a lot of free agent pass rushers out there like Ingram, Vic Beasley, Jabal Sheard. I think the Steelers still need to pick up one of those to be really going at it and looking like they're trying to commit to this offseason. But I'm going to be honest, that was a good pickup. And after draft talk, why don't we compare how the Steelers did to some other teams in the division? So I'll go ahead and start off with no particular order, but the team that picked first from our division, the lowly Bengals, who are hopefully getting their quarterback back and hoping to be a little better this year, I'm assuming. And let's go out there. The Bengals, first pick overall, you think maybe they're going to get that big left tackle, a guy to protect Joe Burrow, but they go out and get a guy who already has chemistry with the quarterback, and that's something that can't be understated as a guy who the last season we saw him playing college football played with this quarterback, caught 20 touchdowns, almost 1,800 yards, and that's Jamar Chase. Skills are there, talent's there. A lot of time what's missing is just they can't get in sync with the quarterback, but this guy has been in sync with the quarterback before, so this could be a huge pickup for the Bengals out there, adding a big time explosive weapon who can just push it out. I mean, whew, Chase looked really, really good as catching balls from Joe Burrow. And then second round pick just takes your typical Jackson Carman, who I don't know, maybe he played tackle at Clemson, I believe. Might move inside to guard in the NFL, but he looks like a guy who's probably going to come out and be ready to start day one. Really polished, good, everything about him, just like you expect from those big schools. And I mean, looks like your typical guy who's going to go out there and start. Round three, they took Joseph Osai from Texas, defensive end who is going to be a good rotational piece for them. Might transition into a better all-around starter. Some weaknesses in his game. Big skill set, though. And then when you get going, I mean, really after their first three picks, maybe in the fourth round with Tyler Shelvin, the 6'3", 350 defensive tackle, big-time run stopper might be a contributor. Cam Sample's one of those small school guys who you don't have much tape on, so who knows if he's going to be the next Cameron Wake type of guy or just the next small school guy who couldn't make it in the big time. We have to wait and see on those type of deals, but I mean, all in all, I thought the Bengals had an average draft, I'll say. I feel like they could have done a little more where they were. A couple picks felt like a little bit of a reach, but really, you go out there, you draft a guy like Jamar Chase, let's be honest, it's going to be all put around him. Did they make the right move? Was the wide receiver the right move? Their whole draft class is going to be, if this kid becomes a top 10 NFL receiver, it was a great, great move. If he struggles to be, let's say, production levels close to Juju, minus Juju's huge year when he had the 1,500 yards, if he produces like Juju level, since we're all Steelers fans and know that, you're talking a draft class that's meh. That's why I give them just a B, leaning towards B plus, because I do like the later picks of guys like Tyler Shelvin. I mean, there's some other picks in there that to me are questionable, like a fifth round taking a kicker. I mean, that could look great, but at the same time, really taking a kicker in the fifth round seems kind of like a waste of a pick. And there's a couple intrigue. I mean, Trey Hill is a starter at Georgia, good size. We'll see what happens. A little sloppy on his footwork, but I mean, could work out really well at the center. Chris Evans was a more of a catching running back out of there. The question is this the exact replacement for Giovanni Bernard? I mean, he's a little bigger guy, but he started at wide receiver before. I mean, so clearly the receiving skills are there. Is that the kind of guy that could start for him? I don't know. I mean, I'm not too huge into the Bengals, so I haven't dug too deep into their picks. But on the surface, it looks like they did a pretty solid job, hit where they needed. And even though some of the picks are like maybe they should have went somewhere else, none of them really felt like reaches. They felt like proper position, proper take. I personally do feel Ja'Marr Chase was the best receiver in the draft, so taking him at 5 to me wasn't crazy out there. It wasn't a bad move. I kind of like it. I really do. I'm not going to lie. That's why I give them a B, leaning towards B plus. So, who shall we go to next, everybody? I'm thinking we go to the team that ended our season quite terribly. And that's the Cleveland Browns. I mean, Cleveland is what Cleveland is, right? I mean, as long as we're not trash talking them, it's not too terrible. They went out and in the first round got themselves a cornerback in Greg Newsome. I guess he was rated around that area, so not much of a reach. And when you consider Cleveland's big problem last year was their secondary, a good solid pick for them. I mean, they are getting Greedy Williams back. They did add Johnson at safety. They also added Hill at cornerback. So they added guys to make that secondary better and then went out and drafted one right off the bat. And that's like, okay, that's a good, decent value, not a terrible pick, not a terrible reach, solid contributor, and it looks like they're trying to fix their biggest hole, which is smart to do before they have to pay Baker, is make this year as big of a run as you can, and we've seen them bring in people like Clowney, and it looks like they really want to make a run at it, and that's what you have to see from a team like that. And then we get to, in my opinion, the best value pick in the whole draft, and that was Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And the linebacker from Notre Dame, I mean, I know he's only 6'1", 215, a little small for a linebacker, but the way the NFL is going now, if you've seen these super athletic tight ends that are going out there, that are a lot more pass catcher than run blocker, I understand he's not going to be a huge run-stopping linebacker, and you have to use him in the right situations. I don't expect him to be, if they're trying to run the ball, he'll be in there, but the speed at 4.4 to run with anybody, the speed to cover a wide receiver, a tight end, a running back, the speed to make backfield plays. And if you put on Notre Dame game tape, this kid was always out there just blasting into someone, hitting someone, doing something. And you can't take away the fact that that type of speed in the modern day game is so huge, and having a guy who's willing to play downhill with that type of speed is really effective. And to me, getting a guy at pick 52 overall that most mocks had going in the top 20 is such great value because his athleticism is for real. It's off the charts. And it's just a great value pick to have him slip that far and get picked up. I mean, who knows if he works out? Maybe he is too small. Maybe he's a tweener without a position. But at that value, that is a pick that you have to absolutely love. You have to give it to the Browns for being able to get in that situation and get that pick and have the guts to take it. I mean, everyone else let him fall, and as far as I can tell, the only reason he was falling is because he's a slight bit undersized, but we're seeing more and more undersized linebackers come into the league and play great, whether it's just in sub packages with guys like LJ Fort, or whether it's you're seeing these linebackers now have to have sideline to sideline speed if you want to be great ones. I mean, you're talking what Shazier was, what Devin Bush maybe becomes, what Devin White is for Tampa Bay, although that's a different case because he's just huge and fast. He's like the Micah Parsons type of build for people who are only up on the current draft. And just, ugh. Then we get to round 3, and the Browns again just decide, you know what? This speed thing kills, and we're going to take it again. And they take an absolute burner, blazer, speed demon, Anthony Schwartz out of Auburn. The wide receiver can just blow the top off the defense. Questions are in his hands and his route running ability, but there's definitely no questions in the way he can run. Maybe he'll go join DK Metcalf out there and try to join the 100-meter Olympic team, which good luck to you tomorrow, DK. I hope you absolutely kill it. And I like the pick for them because you put in 2 more. Who knows what Odell Beckham Jr. is like coming back from a knee injury, but you have a pure great slot route runner in Jarvis Landry, and you put a burner on the outside that has to cover double cover, you're going to open up for the two tight ends they have there, and Njoku and oh my gosh, I can't think of the guy they signed last year. That was their number one tight end. Came from Atlanta, I believe. Jeez Louise. But you open up space in the middle for guys like that, guys like Jarvis Landry. You let Odell Beckham Jr. run across the middle. You free up some space for Kareem Hunt to go across the middle. I like that draft pick. That was a good one. And then you get towards the end of the draft. I mean, really nothing that sticks out as, yeah, that's going to tip it any direction. I mean, I kind of like Tony Fields out of West Virginia. He was a tackle machine, but I'm not sure he has athleticism for the NFL. And that was, I mean, that their late round picks to me don't really scream anything. But just your typical late round filler type of guys, maybe something works out. I don't know. I don't know too much about their draft class that well. I felt like the Browns had a B plus to A minus draft. I really feel getting a guy who had top 20 talent in the second round really pushes it up there to where I almost got it just solid A minus A. But I think we have to sit at the B plus A minus for him because while all of their picks aren't bad ones, seem to have value and some even place. The question is, do these picks fit in the NFL? And that's going to take a little while to see. I mean, based off of that's why they're getting tied for the highest grade for me in the AFC North. And that's only because the Ravens, who we're going to talk about next, took some picks that I just love. I don't know if you've ever watched Rashad Bateman play, the wide receiver from Minnesota, but he plays like he has a chip on his shoulder, goes up and catches a football. I know the Ravens haven't been great at drafting wide receivers. I know they haven't really even been great at bringing in wide receivers. I understand all of that. I like Rashad Bateman. I mean, late in the first round, that's the type of talent kind of guy you want. Good size, good measurables, production. And let's be honest, the way Baltimore plays, it's not like he's going to have to beat double coverage very often because teams have to play completely in the box. So he just has to be able to win a one-on-one matchup every now and then and catch a ball that Lamar Jackson throws. I mean, we'll see how well he does at doing that, but I personally like the draft pick. I think it was a good move. I think it's going to work out well for them. But anyone who listened to our pre-draft coverage knows who my favorite player in the draft was, know who I want the Steelers to take, and it's Odafe Oweh. I guess it was Jason Oweh before, but he says, nah, you're going to learn how to call me by my real first name now. The linebacker from Penn State who's like 260, 6'4", runs a 4.36. I mean, the dude is a freak. I know the college production wasn't there. I felt he gets drafted by the Steelers or Ravens. He goes into a great spot. I think he turns into something really special. I think he's going to turn into something really special. I think the Steelers are going to regret not taking him. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it doesn't pan out. Hopefully those 0 sacks show up in the NFL. I'm not feeling it, though. I gave him all the praise in the world, and I'm not going to take it away now because, oh, well, he got drafted by the Ravens, so now I need to cry and say he sucks and say he's the worst thing ever because my little fragile ego can't handle that my favorite draft prospect went to another team. Now, I wish him nothing but luck. I really hope it doesn't work out personally just because it's a Raven thing and that would hurt the Steelers. But I do hope it works out for him. I hope he shows all those skill sets he has. I think it might take him a year or two to develop into that, but I really think they got something special there. Then you take into fact they don't have a second round pick. They go into the third round and they get Ben Cleveland, who you put on some tape, this dude can maul. I mean, he plays physical, he plays mean, he plays Baltimore Raven football. If you ever looked at a prospect and said, that is a Baltimore Raven player, that's Ben Cleveland. I mean, he fits the build. He was one of the guys I was hoping the Steelers could get later in the draft because guards seemed to be falling, and he would have brought a big physical tenacity to the Steelers' offensive line, and that would have been good to see. But unfortunately, we're here, and it's another one of those picks, and it kept happening in this draft, by the way, where the Steelers are in front of the Ravens by a couple picks, and I'm like, we're going to get this guy. We're going to get this guy. We don't get him. He falls to the Ravens. I told my wife, I'm like, man, if they get Oweh, I'm going to be so mad because he's going to turn into something special in Baltimore. They get him. We go to the third round. I say, man, we just took this guard. If the Ravens go out and find a way to steal someone like Ben Cleveland later and he turns out to be the better one, I'm going to be like, ugh, this is killing me. they steal Ben Cleveland. But it gets even better than that. Because, once, twice, maybe it's not crazy. But guess what? There's another player I really, really liked that somehow fell to the Baltimore Ravens. And that is a guy who going into last year, everyone thought was going to be a first-round pick. He was going to be the next great cornerback to come out of Ohio State. Big problem was he moved from the slot to the outside. On the outside, he couldn't cover. And I understand in the NFL, the slot receivers are as talented as those outside receivers in the college game. But you put on his tape prior to this year, and Shaun Wade was a late first-round pick. He put on his tape this year. He's a guy who probably shouldn't have gotten drafted. But the thing is, that talent's there, and if he can show that in the slot, if he can play that, that is a hell of a steal to come in the 5th round. I loved that pick. I wasn't really a huge fan of any of their other late-round picks, just your typical filler guys. Although taking Ben Mason, a fullback in the 5th round, says something. I am all about teams going back to power football, and the only team that seems to really have embraced it, and I've said it before, if you build a big offensive line and you build a running game with the way football is now, you can make the playoffs. I don't know if you'd win a Super Bowl, but you can be a competitive team that's always in the playoffs because no one's built to stop you. And that's how it is. And that's what the Ravens are doing. They maybe don't have the prettiest things all around, but they are just built to beat the teams that are smaller. And the way the NFL is going, as we saw with Cleveland's draft, a middle linebacker at under 220 pounds, you don't want to run into that Ravens offensive line with that. I mean, they're big, they're physical. They just drafted a fullback in the 5th round because they are so sure of what they want to do, and they are so willing to do it. And I loved this draft from the Ravens. I really thought Bateman was good value. Always my favorite pick in the draft. I like Cleveland late. I love those Shaun Wade pick. And I love the Ben Mason pick. That's why they get a B+, A- range for me. I think they, however, have the draft class that is most likely to be a full-on bust. Out of all of them, I think they have the most likely to be a full-on bust. I mean, I understand the Steelers took a tight end, but even if he doesn't pan out to be great, he's probably going to start for a few years, and that looks good. I know they took a running back that even if he doesn't pan out, he's probably going to start for a couple years, so that will look good. The Ravens took some guys who could be superstars, like Bateman, Oweh, Wade, or just never see a down on the field because or as a starter because they never developed quite all the way. I mean, boom or bust potential is always the wide receiver position, which you could say the same with Cincy, although I feel that's a really polished receiver who, unless injuries happen, you're talking it's going to have at least a solid career. The later first round guy here, big boom bust potential. Oweh is your definition of boom-bust prospect. If they can figure out how to teach him a couple moves, you're talking perennial Pro Bowler. You're talking TJ Watt skill level. He doesn't learn any moves. You're talking, oh boy, what can we even compare him to there? I don't know who you want to say, but take your pick of any defensive lineman who is supposed to be great that hasn't come out. Let's say he could be 16 sack All-Pro Vic Beasley, or he could be 3.5 sack, oh my gosh, we need to get rid of this guy's contract last year in Atlanta, Vic Beasley. Like, that is just crazy to me, the boom-bust potential there. Also, I want to touch on one last piece of Steelers news before I call it a day here. How about Big Al signing with Baltimore and then throwing absolute shade at Pittsburgh wide receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster, the way they called games? I mean, there was shade of muck thrown, and I don't blame Big Al. I mean, you're a big offensive lineman. You don't want to pass block 70% of the time. You want to get out there and you want to be able to hit someone in the mouth. You don't want to be receiving hits all day. You want to give a hit. And I mean, you want to give a hit. There's no better spot to go than Baltimore. He's here throwing shade at Pittsburgh. I really hope we can stick it to him and use it as bulletin board material. But I love Big Al. I mean, veterans rock, baby. That dude is a hero. That dude is always going to be a hero. I will never wish ill on him. But a little bit of shade thrown back at Pittsburgh makes me go, bro, come on now. You could have been a little nicer about it. That wasn't necessary. We don't need any shade thrown over here, Big Al. Jeez Louise, man. Cut us some slack. But there you go. Those are my grades for the AFC North. If you missed them, we got the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns getting the A- B+ range grade. We got the Bengals getting the B to B+, maybe even B to B-. I'm not sure how I really feel about them. I'll just say solid B. The solid B, solid average draft grade, the solid you did what you should have done and got out of there grade. And then we had the Steelers coming in at C+ B-. You all know my reasonings for that. I loved drafting a fat punter. It's going to make for good television, I tell you. But outside of that, I ain't really got nothing left for y'all. I guess I'll give a shout out. It's right before Mother's Day, so I have to say a shout out to every mother out there, especially mine, especially my wife, because it's awesome. What mothers give up. They give up their bodies to produce us. We should be ever thankful for that. And all the mothers who produced NFL kids or professional kids or any mother who produced any child, it's something to be proud of. It's something to celebrate. It is an exceptional thing. Any people who want to be future mothers, I can't say enough good things. Even if you were just an adoptive mother, that's not just an if. That is such a huge step. Being willing to raise another child is such a huge thing. And all mothers, no matter how you became into the mother realm, should be thanked on this day. Because they deserve our gratitude every day of the year. But let's be honest, the least we can do is give them one super day. And this is a shout out to all the mothers because all of y'all rock it. I don't care what anyone says. Being a mother is not an easy job. And anyone who's willing to give up all of that for another human being, put needs of others in front of themselves, much respect. That wraps it up for us here. You know how to hit us up. Tell me how I did. Let me know how bad I am. Let me know your grades. You give them to me. I'll talk about them. Next week, maybe we'll look more into still free agents the Steelers could acquire and some positions of need. But leave me a comment on this YouTube link. Leave me a comment in the Twitch VOD. Reach me at Viking_Donkey on Twitch. Reach me at Viking_Donkey on Twitter. Leave me an email. Leave a comment on your Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger on YouTube. Hit me up at Viking Donkey on Xbox. However you want to do it. Hit me up. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know how Gingy's doing. Let us know how Laskers is doing when he joins. Let us know how Zoidy did when he joined. Let us know what your favorite parts are. And a little sneak peek. The betting formula that is going to be a huge part of the show going forward is getting done. We have 2 years worth of results. They're looking pretty promising. We're going to be putting it into first time actual use this year. But hey, everybody out there, I love y'all. Thank y'all for your time. And Steeler Nation, you know what to do. Wave them if you got them, baby. Wave them if you got them.